In fact, I would even go as far to say business coaching, because you'll find that a lot of business coaches out there actually, a lot of them haven't actually run their own business.
It's not based around the AI and how quick everything is progressing.
I've been in business for 24 years now, and I'm always still learning.
I've learned way more by working under Derek as opposed to going to uni. You can burn out so fast.
Getting a website up there just because someone told you to get it up there is why a lot of businesses fail, because they just don't do it properly.
Doing the hardest thing first thing in the morning so that you feel a bit more accomplished in the day as well.
Most businesses do have a part of all those things, but they're all over the place and it's all fragmented.
You'll probably find that you will have more failures than you will have success. But it's the failures that you're going to learn the most out of.
Certainly I've had this issue, and I've felt myself as well, that it's so difficult to try and find the right people.
It's so hard to find good talent.
The most successful people learn to say no more often, because that's how you succeed faster. Don't listen to everybody out there that's running a business.
So let's get straight into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. So today's going to be a little bit different. A lot of our podcasts are obviously talking about what we do. But this one, we're actually going to be talking about 20 pieces of overrated advice. Now, this has been published by Forbes. So we're going to be talking about the 20 pieces of overrated business advice that is most often given out to business owners. And we're going to be giving our perspective on that and what we would advise. So let's get straight into it. So the first one is you should always be working and you should never sleep.
Well, I mean, that's definitely overrated. I think you'll find that in order to ensure that you're efficient and you're getting things done and you're focused, you need your sleep. And I would recommend you try and get at least 8 hours every single night. And I've been in that position where, I've been working like pretty much non-stop, to the tune of being like over 24 hours. Thinking that I'm doing the right thing by trying to get things done, but in actual fact what happens is you start to slack off, you start to lose focus, you start looking to do other things just to try and procrastinate, I suppose, and getting some of the stuff done. So the best thing to do is to look after your time, make sure you get enough sleep so that you're nice and fresh every single day.
Yeah, and when you think about it, you need sleep to survive. You need sleep to function. You need sleep for, to give the highest performance that you can give. And, sleep is so important when it comes to your brain fog, your, quickness, with everything, with your general health. You need sleep. So, and I think a lot with when you're a CEO, there's this fad around, you need to be the one that's doing a lot of the work, and it's not like that, and it shouldn't be like that. But it unfortunately is like that. But you need your sleep, so very much an overrated one. And you also need that work-life balance at times as well. Obviously, if you're going through, there might be sprints where you're going through, where you might need to work a little bit longer, or you might need to sacrifice going out with your friends, and all that sort of stuff that you need to prioritize work. But there should be sprints. You still need to have a life.
Yeah, 100%. And another piece of advice, which I feel is overrated, is listening to third-party sales coaches or sales coaching. In fact, I would even go as far to say business coaching, because you'll find that a lot of business coaches out there actually, a lot of them haven't actually run their own business. There's a good chance that they're running a business, that they're running whatever coaching business that they've got, but unless they've actually been where you want to be, I would not listen to like sales coaches or business coaches. Or I suppose it's not so much about listening to them in a whole. I just think you need to watch what you're listening to, just to make sure, because at the end of the day, everybody can learn something from someone or from everyone. But if you're trying to get to your 5 million turnover and you're at 1 million at the moment, and the business coach or sales coach has never been at that level, then the chances are, I mean, they can obviously, like most things, read a book and recite what they're reading and things like that, but you can do that yourself. What you need is practical advice where they've actually been through it. That's the kind of information and advice you want to listen to.
I actually seen a post this morning by somebody on LinkedIn. I can't remember who, but they said there's three things that you need in your business. One is you need an A-star player or A-star players. You might have to pay them more, but they'll bring in, 10 times more than B and C star. And then the second one was um, listen to people that have been where you want to be. And it's so true. You don't want to, and I feel like there's a lot of, no disrespect, because obviously they're killing it, but there's a lot of people my age, and I'm, 23, still quite young. I'm still learning business as I go, but there's a lot of people out there that are starting coaching businesses, that have just gone to uni, and the stuff that they've learned at uni. And now the stuff that you learn at uni is very dated. Like, even from a perspective of what we do, it's very dated to that. It's about, probably like 2010, when SEO was just kind of a thing and all that sort of stuff. It's not based around the AI and how quick everything is progressing.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, it goes back to that whole thing about having that like practical advice, practical, like having that focus where the person who's trying to coach you to get you to where you want to be has actually been through it. So they understand where you are and they can resonate where you are and where you're trying to get to. That's the whole thing about coaching. It's the same with life coaching and all that kind of stuff. But then this probably takes you even back to what is an expert, because I mean, every single day there's new businesses starting, and I think a lot of people jump in the bandwagon with some other stuff, and they put themselves out there as being experts in their field, but they've got no practical experience. And you just need to watch where you're getting that advice, and and understand who you're taking that advice from.
Yeah, I agree. The third one is that the customer is always right. Now, you do need to take that with a grain of salt, and the customer isn't necessarily right all the time, but you do need to be transparent, and you need to be educating, especially, like, I guess from our point of view, working with customers. They don't know what we do, you know? They don't understand why you need SEO, why you need a website, why everything needs to be under one revenue system. They've just been told you need to get leads, so they go and, try and get leads. And that's where the education comes in. And it will be the same for every industry. Even when you're thinking about SaaS, well, why do I need this, or why do I need that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we see this all the time, eh? And another issue, this goes back to the previous issue as well, where they're maybe getting non-practical advice from people that haven't actually worked in the field or don't really understand their their business or their industry, or maybe they just provide one aspect of the revenue system which we provide end to end, and don't understand how the other elements fit in and things like that. So, and what can happen then is you then have a customer who's listening to 10 different experts, and their advice is all conflicting and is different from what you're doing. And and I think, as you say, it's about educating the customer, and not specifically being defensive and saying, you're not right. There's a way to approach these things, and educating them is the best way. That's how I've always found it. And what I generally do is, if I'm in that kind of position, is I'll actually try and provide a practical example. So it's not even just about providing the correct advice. It's how do you actually apply that advice? What's the example of that? And SEO is actually a prime example of how the advice that we provide.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a long-term thing as well. And, with your customers, you have to explain that not everything is going to be straight off the bat. You're going to get it. That's great. Like with ads, SEO is a long-term approach. So there's different avenues that you can go in, but ultimately, you do need that whole revenue system. You need a part of everything.
That's right. And the thing is, you'll find that most businesses do have a part of all those things, but they're all over the place. and it's all
Fragmented.
fragmented with tools and teams and people and advice and all this kind of stuff. And what happens is the you know the business owner doesn't really know what to do, or they end up doing the wrong things, or the things aren't done in a methodical way to help improve the constant growth of the business. And again, that's exactly why you need a governed revenue system.
Yeah. So the next one is to follow your passion. Now, while it's great and you need to have fun when you're, building a business, passion alone won't guarantee your success. You need to be looking at your skills, you need to be looking at the opportunities that are available, like AI, for instance, right now. AI is a huge thing, but it's probably not your passion. But if you can advance on AI right now, you can probably be generating millions.
Well, I mean, businesses need to consider, the main things like market demand. Is there actually going to be demand for what you're going to offer? Are you actually solving a business problem? Are there people out there that are willing to pay for you to solve that problem? That's really the biggest things.
Yeah.
What's the feasibility? I mean, if your passion is stamp collecting, the chances of you making a business of that is probably limited. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But you need to be realistic in what you're going to be doing. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a passion for what we do, because I know the difference and impact it makes to people's businesses and their lives. But you need to be realistic with whatever that passion is, and make sure that you're solving a business problem.
Yeah. The next one is that you need experience. So this might be a little bit contradicting to what we said earlier, but to start a business, you don't necessarily need experience, but you do need to be proactive and you need to have the ability to want to learn, because you learn so much more by going through some things the hard way and having to learn things out yourself. And, that's worth so much more than, having to go to uni. I've learned way more by working under Derek as opposed to going to uni. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the uni stuff that I learned was very outdated to what I was actually learning and what I had to learn for my role.
That's right. But the thing is, you didn't need experience to start a business. Anybody can start a business, but you need to just make sure that yeah, you do learn as you go. I mean, I've been in business for 24 years now, and I'm always still learning. You can't be brilliant at every single aspect of business. That's why you bring in partners. That's why Boderia exists. You bring in partners to help you drive growth, for instance, or drive revenue. You bring in partners to do your books, because whatever you're good at, whatever your passion might be, it could be a bricklayer, an electrician, whatever it is. You don't necessarily need business experience, because you, like most things, you learn on the job. But you do need to get started.
Yeah. Yeah. The next one is always saying yes. Now, this is the one that will bite you in the butt if you just say yes to everything. You're going to be overcommitting yourself. You're going to be misaligned with your organization's visions and values. And can be very distracting. You need to have the ability to say no. And for instance, like with us, our clients might come to us and they go, I need more leads. And then we go, okay, we look at their overarching system. And then we go, it's not the leads you need, it might be this. And this is where education also becomes very valuable. You need to look at the whole, whole point. If we just say, yes, we'll do some Google ads for you, and it doesn't generate you leads because your website isn't conversion rate optimized, you're just wasting money.
Yeah, I mean, this really is about, being that kind of yes man. Where somebody comes to you, yeah, it's not really your core offer, but you say yes to it anyway, which then distracts you from your core offer. Now, because we've moved away from there being that kind of marketing agency and offering bits and pieces of tactics, or software or websites just as separate pieces, it becomes a nightmare for us to try and manage, and also it's not delivering the best value for our clients. So generally what we do now is we provide that full system, and it's for B2B businesses with complex sales cycles. There are a few various different industries that can work with, but we are fully aligned with what our core offer is now. And if someone comes to us just looking for a website, that's not for us anymore. There's 5 million other website companies out there if you feel that that's all you need. Now I can tell you right now that's not what you need. That's a part of what you need, but what you actually need is a governed revenue system. And we keep coming back to that because that's what our core offer is, and it's exactly what most businesses need to get to where they want to be, and that's to drive revenue. That's why we're in business in the first place. So, in terms of always like being that yes man, make sure that you stick to your vision, your mission, and the goals, and don't let other things that's not part of your core offer distract you from your core business. In fact, in actual fact, I think you'll find that the most successful people learn to say no more often, because that's how you succeed faster.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to aligning your ICP. If you're just saying yes just to get some money in, and it's so easy when you're just starting out because you're like, yeah, I can do all this stuff, I can do this, and I'll get paid for it. Great. But then as you start to obviously grow, it does start to bite you in the butt.
Yeah, 100%. The next thing is when someone gives you that advice, this is generally either your friend or your family, just get a website up, and then they automatically think that because they've got a website up there that it's going to guarantee success, and they're going to be getting all these leads through the website, and that's just not the case. And again, we talk about this revenue system, but within that revenue system, we have a marketing program, and part of that marketing program is SEO, is conversion rate optimization, is paid ads, is organic socials, it's and all these things work together to get you to drive that success and drive that revenue. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, a website is a massive part of that as well. You need to build a strong online presence. You need to engage with your audience and provide real value for them. But getting a website up there just because someone told you to get it up there is why a lot of businesses fail, because they just don't do it properly.
And you might be thinking, oh, I've just spent 10, 12, 15 grand on this website. Why is nobody contacting me? You need that SEO. You need to be still advertising yourself on Google Ads, Facebook ads, wherever your people may be, LinkedIn. You need to be posting on social media. It's such a multi-channel approach, and especially in this day and age. And, you need to be optimized for AI now as we start to go into the AI world. It's not just about showing up on Google. You now also need to be doing TikToks, because especially if you're with the younger generation, people are going to TikTok as a search engine as opposed to Google. So there's so much that you need to be thinking about and doing it, and it can be overwhelming. And that's why we exist, to take that overwhelmingness away from you and point you in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bodega exists to help implement a governed revenue system, which includes all that kind of stuff to make things easier to help drive that revenue, and certainly have that system in place.
The next one, and this is a huge one, is the failure is not an option. And this couldn't be further from this truth, because obviously when you're striving for that success, all you want to see is the success. But you'll probably find that you will have more failures than you will have success. But it's the failures that you're going to learn the most out of. And, it's going to help you to grow even bigger and better and,
Yeah, I tend
get to where you want to be.
I tend not to say failure. I tend to say that you either win or you learn. Because let's be honest, if you fail, then you're learning that something doesn't work. So that allows you to then, pivot and do whatever needs to happen in order to succeed the next time around. If you continue to do the same thing, expect a different result, but continue to fail or learn, then you don't change things, then obviously that's a problem. But you need to, don't fear failure, because that can hinder innovation and growth. You need to get out there, do what you feel is the right thing, and if it doesn't work, then you've learned what doesn't work, and then pivot.
Agree. So the next one is always be hustling. While this is great and it shows that you have a great work ethic, and work ethic is very important, you can burn out so fast. And I've burnt myself out a few times, just trying to get through things, and you're like, oh yeah, I can work 16 hours a day. While it might be good for little sprints, it's not, you can't be doing that 24/7. Like I mentioned earlier, you still need that work-life balance. You still need to, go for walks, go for the gym if you can, or,
Yeah,
have a life outside of work.
100%. Yeah, people have always says, that you're always selling. You're always selling yourself. That's exactly why I always take the lint roller. That's why I always have a lint roller when I'm ironing, because I do inside and outside the clothes, because you're always selling yourself. That's why you should always dress well, look good, and feel good, because you're always hustling, I suppose. But as you say, for your own physical and mental health, make sure that you take time out. In actual fact, there's actually a lot of times where, if I've been coding software, sometimes you'll be at it for so long that you're presented with a problem you just can't solve. And then what happens is you take yourself away from the computer, go for a walk with the dog, come back, and the answer's there. You work out. That's how important taking time is. And I know that, and I've done this as well. I burnt myself out big time, especially at the beginning, because you're eager for that success, and you want to try and make as much revenue and money as you possibly can in business. But what's more important is your health. Your physical and mental health are more important than any business. So just make sure you take care of yourself that way.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, the next item we're going to talk about is hiring slow and firing fast, which also helps with your mental health and the continual growth of your business. You know, one of the reasons for hiring people in the first place is to get them in to do what you're currently doing, and that can be really difficult. And certainly I've had this issue, and I've felt myself as well, that it's so difficult to try and find the right people,
It is. It's so hard to find good talent. And that's one of the whole reasons as to why we are remote. Because it's not just good talent in Australia, there's good talent all over the world, and we hire the best of the best.
Yeah, 100%. But you need to make sure that the people that you are hiring are good, and that do see what they say they're going to do, because people tend to fabricate their CVs and things, and fabricate what they've done and the successes that they've had. I'm not saying that's everybody, but in my experience, and I know that, you tend to tailor your CV for whatever job you're going for, right? But you need to be real. You need to be realistic and honest, and transparent about what you've done, and what you can do for the business, because you will be found out. And if you do have someone that you've hired, they've taken the time to hire, and you've found them out, you need to get rid of them fast. You need to get rid of them fast,
Yeah.
so that you can then
But
start looking for that right person.
but I think I'd agree that it's overrated, the hire slow, fire fast. You need to still, there's going to be times where you need things done like this. Like there might be a project that we have, and maybe we need an extra content person on board. So you have to kind of just hire fast and bring that person in and hope that, they can learn fast. And I guess there is that kind of probational period where they have to unlearn what they know and learn from you. But, you're talking maybe 2 months and 2 to 3 months, and they should be able to, pick up things pretty quick.
That's right, but I mean that's why we have like their whole SOP library, standard operating procedures. So when new clients, or sorry, new team members come in, we've got all the SOPs and things already there for them. So and we take them through and provide them training and things. That's obviously essential. But I mean,
And that's always evolving too.
that's right.
It's not just a do it and we've had those, and even now we're still updating those and making sure that everything's fine-tuned and easy as possible, so that you come in, you know what you're doing, you can get straight into it.
Yeah, and you know, for most businesses, there's also the option of bringing on virtual assistants and other people on a contract basis, which you can do fairly quickly. Yeah, and if they don't quite work out, you can terminate that contract fairly quickly as well, so you can move on, try and find the right people for the job in hand.
Yeah. And you also, before you're terminating somebody, though, you want to have a chat to them to see, why they might not be up to your standards, and how they can actually improve their performance. And if, maybe give them a month. If you don't see any improvement, then maybe it's time to move on from each other.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously, people need to be given the opportunity to improve. I think if you show someone something once and there's an SOP there as well that they can reference, and you know they know where to find it and things, then there's no reason for them not to be doing the absolute minimum of the expectation. So
And the next one that I think is a bit overrated is fail fast and fail often. While this is great because you learn from your mistakes, it does often lead to unrationalized and reckless decision making. And you're just like, yep, we'll just do this, without actually having a little think about it. While when you're a leader, you need to be making fast decisions, it does need to be rationalized.
well, I think people, especially leadership, need to uh, utilize the data in hand and the dashboards and things that they've got, provided the data is trustworthy, to help make those decisions as well. Rather than just that didn't work, so let's try that. That didn't work, let's try that. You need to review why it didn't work. And again, that goes down to the rationalisation. Why did it not work? What could be made better? And what's the next possible action to take in order to see if that will work?
Yep. Yeah. And then the next one is fake it till you make it. Now this, I don't know. It is a yes and it is a no for me. In certain things, if you're faking confidence, or you have to go up on stage and you maybe get scared talking in front of large people, but if you can fake it and get through that and make it, I think I wouldn't say that's a negative or an overrated piece of business advice.
It depends on where you look at this. I mean, fake it till you make it. I mean, this goes back to, if you think about the whole CV thing, faking that and this happens, by the way. I mean, this happens all the time, where people are faking that they've been, a CRO or a CMO or whatever, and they've never actually been a CRO or CMO, and then they eventually get found out about that. And this happens, and even in Australia, not that long ago, where someone, I think they were faking that they were some sort of teacher or something like that, and they eventually got found out that they weren't. I think you need to be confident in what you're doing. I mean, faking it until you make it. Say, for instance, you want to get into doing speaking gigs and things like that, and you've never done it before, then by all means, fake it till you make it. In other words, keep practicing and just get better and improve your confidence instead. And that'll help you get to where you want to be. But faking something which you're not competent in, I don't think that's right.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. Especially like if you're faking case studies or you're faking, I helped this business. I don't know, for instance, if it was us and we say, we helped this business generate 50 million in a year, like, people can just see through the BS.
Yeah, 100%.
And you don't want to lose that credibility.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
The next thing we're going to talk about is maximising the total available market. Now, I had a friend actually who was working in sales, well, they're still working in sales now, but they were actually asked by the manager about, can you tell us what the total addressable market or total available market is? And she wasn't quite sure what they were actually getting at for that. Now, the reason that that's a problem is you shouldn't really be trying to maximise the total available market anyway. What should actually be happening, especially from a B2B perspective, and the same is true for any product or service, is that you should be identifying your representative customers and determining an accurate customer personas and ICPs so that you're targeting properly. So yeah, I think that's something that, I mean, sure, understand your total addressable market, but understand that, and within that market, there's only a certain target within that market that you should actually be reaching out to,
Yeah, right. If you put it in perspective of Boderia, we start from about 10 grand a month upwards. Like that's just the starting price. So somebody that's just starting a business, why we're not going to be a good fit for them because they're not going to have 10 grand of disposable, income to invest in their business. They need to probably either figure it out themselves or, probably pay a VA or, someone cheap just to get started and get out there. And the next one is grow as fast as possible. It's very easy when you're first starting a business to just think grow as fast as possible. And it's great advice when you think about it long term, but it can be very detrimental to your business at first, especially if you're creating a new product, a new service, or technology. You need to understand that it's not going to be perfect. It needs to be, it needs to grow, it needs to innovate, it needs to,
But it's not even just that. I mean,
takes time.
If you look at the different components of growth and scalability, when I mean take the solar client that worked with us, right? They were doing 1.6 million when we met them. Within that 12-month period, they went to 3.6 million. What got them to 1.6 million certainly didn't. That was never going to get them to the 3.6 million, right? Because of what we implemented within that system. But even with the system that we implemented, they then need to deliver on whatever they're selling, right? Which means they need to then look at team growth. They need to look at, their place of work. Do they need a larger premises, etc., etc. So there's a lot of different things to think about. And I think if you're just if you've got that mindset, grow as fast as possible, I think you're just heading down a rabbit hole there. I just don't think that's the best way to look at things. I think things need to be methodical in order to scale in the long term.
Yeah, 100%. Said it great. So the next one is have a unique selling proposition. I think you do, though, kind of need to have a unique selling proposition. Or the probably best way to put that is you need to have a unique offer.
Aye, because the problem is there's so many, unless you've actually created something yourself, like what we've done, right, with our platform. Now, the platform is one aspect of what we do. We also provide a revenue team, and then we also provide the leadership to run things, right? Now, that is what we would call intellectual property. So we've got something, we've essentially got a unique selling proposition that nobody else has, right? Which is a governed revenue system. In actual fact, the whole premise of that as well is that it's actually sovereign, and that it's not that we provide cloud infrastructure with that as well, so that the company has its own infrastructure, so it's not shared with anybody else, which again is another unique selling proposition. But all of that is goes into what our core offer is. The problem is when you've got so many different sea of the sameness is what we call them. So you've got all these marketing agencies, for instance, who are just all about tactics, who all offer the same stuff. And they're all selling HubSpot or WordPress, or they've not created their own intellectual property. In which case, then they try and create like a viable USP, which isn't really a real USP, because that's what everybody else does. So unless you've got your own thing, it's really hard to create that. So. Having a unique selling proposition, definitely something to probably consider so that you understand what it is, what your core offer is. But I don't think it's not going to be sustainable over time.
Yeah, I think the best businesses to start are the businesses that you are personally are struggling with. So if you see something like, oh, this, I can't find a good hairbrush that, I don't know, brushes my hair. So then you go in and you develop a hairbrush that fixes that problem, fixes your problem. And then there's a personal story to go behind that business that you're creating. And obviously, if it's sustainable and there's market demand out there for it.
Yeah, 100%.
The next one is fully complete one task before moving on. Now, something that you've taught me and something that now I see Layla Hormozi talking about and I see everybody starting to talk about is eat that frog. And it's doing the hardest thing first thing in the morning so that you feel a bit more accomplished in the day as well. You've done the hardest thing, you've ate that frog, because realistically, eating a frog is it'd be probably one of the worst things that you could do in your life. Oh, oh,
Yeah, well, it was Brian Tracy that wrote the book Eat That Frog. And
yeah,
he talks about it all the time. And I would say that as well. Yep. I mean, the whole point of this is, you can't just complete one task and then move on to the next task. You actually need to be able to juggle the tasks that you've got, because you've got multiple things happening in a business. It doesn't happen linearly. You need to be able to juggle and prioritize and pivot where you need to be. I mean, you also need to make sure that you're thorough in your execution of everything. Definitely eat that frog in the morning, because that makes the rest of the day easier, and the tasks that are on your to-do list easier to get done, and it does make you feel accomplished. But certainly you need to be multitasking. And I know that there's research that says that multitasking doesn't actually work. Well, it does work, because you're generally doing more than one thing at a time anyway, or you could be doing one thing, and while you're waiting for something to update, and you could crack on with the next task or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah. You need to be able to juggle, get things done, adapt, if you have to. There's multiple things going on in a business at one time. And especially if you're looking from like a content perspective, Cedric, for example, he might have to write 5 blog articles. So he might start one and then he might hit a creative block. So then he starts the next one, might hit a creative block, might go back to that one, or might start a next one, and then he'll be able to finish it all.
Yeah, 100%.
The next one is to learn from your competitor's experience. Now, in a sense, I would agree with this, but I think the most important question here is to look at what your competitors aren't doing. What are they not innovating on? What are they stuck at? One thing we see time and time again is people will come to us and they'll go, oh, here's my competitor's website, do the exact same thing. And it's like, well, what they're doing might not necessarily be right, just because from the outside you can see that they might be doing really well. Internally, they might actually not be. So you need to carve your own path, and you need to be the innovative person, the category leader, the one that's really that all your competitors are looking at and going, oh crap,
Yeah,
they know what they're doing.
100%. I mean, one of the worst things is going to be, being a follower rather than a leader, and that's how a lot of people tend to be. They do tend to be followers rather than leaders. If the way I do it, I mean, I think you need to understand where your competitors are in the landscape. I think you need to understand what they're doing, what they're innovating on. But I don't think you should copy them. I think what you should do is you should do whatever they're not doing. In a lot of cases, just because somebody's got a web page that has a row of 9, I don't know, like a
Blog articles.
that doesn't mean that you need to do that as well. You need to lead with your own branding. You need to lead with your own story, and you need to lead with everything working properly, conversion optimized, and all this kind of stuff. No, not just because your competitors doing it that way.
Yeah. And as Henry Ford said, people were so focused on getting faster horses that the only answer was to invent a car. And that's how Ford became a thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So the next one is winning the deal is better than losing it.
Yeah, I'd say that's not the case in a lot of cases. You need to make sure that you've got a fit with the prospect, and the prospect has a fit with you, so that you know that when you go in, if there's a deal to be had, that the both of you are going in, with the same mindset, the same understanding, and the same expectation. If you've got I mean, a prime example of this is, you're selling a $10,000 a month product, but you're actually speaking with a $2,000 prospect. The expectations are, it's just not, it's not going to be a fit, because, and I'll tell you something, the customers that are only willing to pay 2,000 a month for your 10,000 a month product, will be an absolute nightmare. They'll take up more of your time, expect more than what you would with the $10,000 a month prospect, and that's the same across the board in many different industries. So make sure that when you're qualifying a prospect or a deal, even is that they're actually qualified. They're qualified properly. You've got your ICP defined, your buyer persona defined. You've went through the qualification meeting, and the both of these are ready to push on with the deal. That's probably going to be a better fit for your business than just accepting any customer that comes along.
Yeah, especially if it's a long-term type of, company that you have, which who we work with, it is that long-term kind of stuff. Your customers need to be thinking long-term. It shouldn't just be a case of, oh, I'm up and leaving after, not getting what I want, or, being told no, for example. Yeah.
So the next one is get your product to do everything. Now, being a software engineer myself, I tend to I can see why people think that this is overrated, right? Because, if you try and get your software to do, or your product to do everything, then you then can't focus on it being the best in its category. However, that really depends what kind of category that you're trying to push on with. So Budelia started as a CMS, which was built from the ground up. So I've written every line of code. And then we started to build in other functionalities within it to reduce the fragmentation and tool sprawl, which happens in every single business. And it's not just about tool sprawl and the gaps and the fragmentation, it's also about the cost. Now, building software is costly as well. So it's taken me over in fact, probably 8 years now to get the system where it is at the minute, which we call a revenue system, because it brings in marketing, sales, customer success, and operations into one system, rather than having a CRM one somewhere, a CMS somewhere else. And I think like HubSpot, for instance, is another option where they're trying to capture a bigger part of the market by offering these integrated systems, but their core product is actually CRM. Arguably, I would say that our system is better than theirs, right? But it's one of these things where, like if you look at Jeff Bezos, for instance, it took him years and years to get Amazon where it is today. It took us 8 years to get where Budelia is today. And realistically, 24 years if you take into all the other years that I've been in business, understanding how business works, marketing, sales, operations, and customer success, and how that all works, and how each function influences everything else. So in some sort of respects, I get it. Don't get your product to do everything. Try and focus, and that's what most SaaS vendors have done, right? They try and focus on one thing and try and be the category leader. I'm of the opinion that I don't want to have to pay for a separate CRM. I don't want to have to pay for a review system. I don't, etc., etc. Plus, I want everything integrated into one system so that the data that we are receiving has got one source of truth. So we're bringing in all the data from all the other APIs like Google Search Console, Google Analytics, etc., etc. That's then merging with our own first-party data, such as reviews and all that kind of stuff, and then we're getting a full, much better view of how our business and how clients' businesses are actually functioning at that particular time. So, and I know that, and you know as well, Chloe, and so does our team, know that jumping from social media platform to social media platform and tool to tool, trying to remember logins and all that kind of stuff is a ball ache. It takes time, and if someone's not in and it's their account and they're not available that day, it's a ball ache. It's a nightmare. So that's why we've done what we've done with Bodaria. So I do have reservations for that one, but it's personal, just mainly because of the way that Bodaria serves as customers.
But I would agree with what you've said, and I would agree with don't get your product to do everything. But the difference between that and what we do is we've carved out a category. We've seen our customers have to go to somebody for a website, somebody for leads, somebody else for SEO, somebody else for, and it's just like, and then, we've had to contact people about access to a website that they don't want to give us access to because they're thinking, oh, they're going to take my money away. And it's just, oh, like you said, it is just a ball ache. And then when you're doing social media and they've got to spend 20 minutes just for one social media post to get it uploaded, rather than going into, Bodaria, popping it in, duplicating it to all the different ones and getting it scheduled, and it takes them probably 3 minutes max. That's time and money that's, better spent doing high level stuff.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. And the last one, like we already said earlier, was listen to business advice. Now, a lot of, obviously, like, you need to do things for your business. And this is another reason why we have Bodaria, is because a lot of systems are built for
that system.
Built for that system. And you've got to fit your business within that system. We're built the opposite way around, where our system is built for your business. So we mold our system around your business and your best practices and what you need, because what you need might not be what another person needs, it all has to be around your business.
That's right. I mean, you can even see this with some other SaaS tools out there where I'll use HubSpot as another example. HubSpot, great system, by the way. We were a HubSpot partner for years until we moved away, started doing our own thing. Great system, although, and it's not just HubSpot actually, it's any SaaS tool. Generally what you need to do is you need to try squeeze whatever how your business operates into how this system works. In a lot of cases it's not really that flexible per se. Whereas ours, because we've written every line of code, we can change absolutely anything and override things and all that kind of stuff, so that our business, the Bodaria, is molded around how their business is. Because even though you've got, even businesses in the same industry, they're all different. They all operate differently. They've got different vision, different missions. They deliver things differently, even though they still see each other as competitors. So it's important to make sure that your business is supported with everything that can mold around how your business works and how you need it to work, because that will accelerate growth. No trying to fit it into something else. So that's the thing. I mean, this also goes back to, like, listen to business advice, overrated. I would agree with that as well, because if you go to any marketing agency, they'll tell you one thing. Oh, everybody uses WordPress because WordPress is used by X amount of people. It's number one. Biggest load of rubbish in the whole entire planet. It's only because that's probably the system that they use and the system that they deliver. That doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be the best platform for that particular customer. And in most cases, most customers don't know anything about the platform, so they just take it for granted that that's the actual case. So just because something's free to download and free to use by anybody doesn't mean it's the best system out there. But I'll stand corrected if someone else has another opinion. But certainly our platform is completely molded around the customer. And I'll tell you something else. I mean, it's the same as like web design and making sure, this is why we go through like a branding exercise with most of our customers as well, if they've not already done it, so that their websites are completely branded to their business. It's not like you take a template that everybody else is using, put in your logo, change a couple of colours, and then boom, but you've got the same website essentially as everybody else. That's not the best way to be. I know that people need to start where they need to start because of the money that they do or don't have. But I would always aim to try and be as unique as humanly possible, because that is how you'll stand out, and that's how you'll be able to attract more customers and have a better story around your brand. So don't listen to everybody out there that's running a business. Just because somebody's got a business doesn't mean that it's successful or that they even know what they're doing.
Like we said earlier, listen to the people that are where you want to be or have been where you want to be. So, if you're doing 1 million and there might be a coach out there that got his business to 5 million and he's telling you how you can get your business to 2 million, listen to him over the person that's, hasn't run a business and is telling you what to do.
That's right.
Amazing. Well, this has been a little bit of a different podcast. So if you like this, let us know in the comments, and make sure you like and subscribe down below, because we post conversations like this every single week.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thanks,
Cheers, guys.
guys. Bye.